I am Ray, and today we're going to expose the most dangerous spiritual idea. And I swear to God, if you use this for evil like last time, I have been having to hunt down, one by one, every single individual. Because you specifically did what I told you not to do, and you used my teachings for evil. Let us ponder the orb. You see, human beings are probably going to be destroyed in a few hundred years because of these teachings. So let's see if we can prevent that today, shall we? The most deadly spiritual teaching is that you are God. There is a reason that, people who knew about this kind of stuff didn't tell it to normal people. And then you have people like me on YouTube and social media talking about it freely. Now, that's never happened before. Only a select few people were able to access knowledge like this. And if you weren't ready to receive knowledge like this, you were never told, so you never had to worry about it. But those cards are off the table, because now the whole world is, exposed to these ideas. The reason it's dangerous is the same reason that Friedrich Nietzsche predicted World War II and World War I. So basically what happened, he said, because of the death of God, the religious framework that was holding up our societies, now that it was gone, there was a big void. And Nietzsche predicted that that void would be filled with something very, very bad. And, for instance, in Russia, Stalin became God. The state became God. Because, there was a need, there's a role that needed to be filled, and no one to fill it. Except Stalin. That's why Nietzsche said God is dead and we have killed him. And once you kill God, that's a void you can't easily fill. The problem is, not in our lifetime, because it takes time for ideas to really settle in the human mind. But in the next generations, next few hundred years, we will see whether or not this information will kill us. Because the moment enough people start believing that they are God, what need do they have for God anymore? They think they found it. So there's no reason to worship an external deity if you believe you are God. It doesn't matter if it's true, because the mind will take the teaching, misinterpret it, and destroy itself with it. The problem is, human beings are going to start seeing evidence of this. Because the moment you start recognizing your true power in this life, that you do have the infinite power of God at the touch of your fingertips. When you see your own miracles, when you see your own power, you really start to believe it. Because, it's true, except what matters is the state of mind in which you are approaching life. For example, are you saying this from your little ego that wants power and control and, to be the best? Or have you actually found what this is about? And if that's the case, it's silently known. You silently abide in the presence of God, in your own presence, in your own inner radiance. And this is the issue, because people who know of this teaching do not speak about it, and those who don't know speak about it a lot. Now, it's my job to speak about these things. Don't criticize me. But the fact remains the same. There's a reason that we've had secret societies. That certain knowledge has been kept from humanity, the public, for a long time. And we think as the public, we want to know. We got to know these things. But there's a reason. And that reason is the psychology of the average human being is not capable of handling these ideas. And the only thing it can do is take them and mess up their own life. That's why I like to say, you can't just believe whatever I say willy-nilly. You have to trust your own inner guidance. Because if I know how to fly and you don't, you could easily just follow me off a cliff and I'll start flying away, but you don't know how to fly yet. What does this mean? It means that if you're at a certain level on your spiritual journey and you're not ready for certain ideas, knowing the ideas can actually make your life worse. Because you have the information, but you don't have any ability to do anything with it. So it's just getting in the way. whereas you might need a lesser teaching, a more relative truth, in order to bridge the gap between where you are and these higher truths. So, near the end of the spiritual journey, you start coming into contact with ideas like this. But what if you're not ready for it? Well, if you're not ready for it, what's going to happen is that ego, who's still in charge, is going to take that information and run with it. And run your life straight into the ground. That is why it is so dangerous. It is better not to believe this and come to that realization later on than to accept it prematurely. Because I promise you, that ego is planning and scheming on how to keep control. And it will do it in a million different ways in which you were just not even prepared for. How sneaky the ego can be. How able it is to walk through the back door, take control without your awareness. I promise you, this idea is not what it seems. Because a lot of people might say, well, yeah, I want to be God. Let me know this. But even I, who recognize the self, which is the divine nature within all of us, I still pray to God and have a relationship with God as if God is separate from me. And one of the mistakes I made in the beginning was, well, after I started learning these teachings of Advaita Vedanta, which is what this is about, one of the first things that happened was I stopped praying. Because it didn't make any sense anymore. If I'm God, then who am I praying to? But then I watched a teaching of Sarva Priyananda, who is an Advaita Vedantin monk, who actually said this is a common thing that people do, and it's a mistake. People stop their spiritual practices once they come to this realization in Advaita Vedanta, that you are God, that thou art, that everything is the divine, and you are that. There is no separation between you and the divine. So it's natural to have this feeling of, well, I found it. I don't need to do anything else. I'm already done. And that's a spiritual bypassing thing. I think Mooji called it one time the Advaita devil or something like that. Instead of actually understanding it, the ego just claims to understand it. So if this idea never resonated with you, good. Because it means that you're not supposed to hear it. You're not supposed to know this. And that's the hard thing about social media, is that you can't divide who learns and who doesn't. So everybody gets to see, but not everyone has eyes. Have you had eyes to ponder? You see, my prediction, and it's not like I'm some prophet, it's just you see the chain of events. You see the causes that would lead to the inevitable effects of certain things. This just so happens to be the destruction of humanity. Oops. My bad. What we risk doing is getting into a situation that's like 10 times worse than what Nietzsche predicted. Nietzsche predicted almost the end of the world in the early 1900s. And it was almost the end of the world, except the reason that this would be worse is because all the religions of the world would begin to diminish. Because you just wouldn't have the need for these religious frameworks anymore. They would be seen as a lesser thing. And there would be people just, humanity is God. It is our right to do as we please, as we wish, on the earth. No longer bound by some external authority. And you can see that we as human beings are already trying to play the role of God. The only problem is we're playing it from the ego. And the ego is not fully God. The ego is a very limited state of consciousness, so when the ego tries to play this role, it destroys everything. Because what does the ego know? It knows nothing. It just thinks it knows, heard some spiritual teachings one time, and then took whatever it wanted for its own personal gain, and took back control. We would kill God a second time, and the oceans of blood will drown the earth. And the difficult thing is that the human beings of the future will actually be closer to God than we are today. Because right now we have these teachings, right? We understand them. But it takes a lot of spiritual progress to actually integrate them into our life. So you may even know intellectually that you are God, but how long does it take for that reality to be made manifest in your life, where you actually see God in everything? It's not as easy. It's not as easy to embody the teachings as it is to just know it. But in the next few hundred years, humanity is going to have time to resonate with these teachings. They're going to have time to integrate them and understand them. And the future generations are going to stand on the shoulders of giants. So it's going to be easier and easier for them to evolve and understand. So it's not going to be as difficult for them to believe this. They're going to be born with superpowers, maybe. In order to realize or claim the idea that you are God, the idea of an external separate God must die. And that is the danger of this. Because if humanity cuts themselves off from the external, ambiguous God, then humanity will be forced to rely on their own judgment, their own selves. And it's not that we can't do this, it's that most often than not, we fail at it. There's a reason that pride is the cardinal sin and humility is the cardinal virtue. Because when you're prideful, you stand up tall like you know something. But if you're living from the ego, it's all just a bluff, the false confidence. And when you act from that false confidence, ignorance in action, you create a lot of suffering and misery for everyone. But humility, which causes you to surrender and ask for forgiveness and be open to the truth. Well, it's going to be really hard for someone who believes they're God to be humble. It's an inflated ego, and that is the true danger. If people actually realized this and had eyes to see, it wouldn't be a problem. If humanity was wise, knowing this would not be a problem at all. But if humanity has not been properly primed for this, meaning we're all still living from ego, now we just have new information, well then the ego is just going to get inflated, believe it's God, and then destroy itself on accident. We kill God, and eternal void manifests and slowly consumes everything. Now here's the deal. You either know this or you don't. And the only way you know this is if you know it without words, if you know it without thoughts. If you start thinking about this and intellectualizing about it and philosophicalizing about it, you don't know it. You either do or you don't, and there's no middle ground. This as an intellectual concept will destroy you. But this as a wisdom, a knowing, will save you. This is the truth that will set you free. Or it could be the truth that destroys you, depending on your level of consciousness. Because the ego is just waiting for some excuse to take control, to feel like it's powerful, to feel like it's his God. But the truth is, someone who knows this, who embodies this, will not speak about it. Because if you have that wisdom, you will see clearly that there is no point. Some truths have been hidden from the world as mercy, so that you don't have to question the nature of your reality. Because, let's say you're a super religious person and this is what you're about. Well, there's certain knowledge that might come into conflict with what your beliefs are. And it might question everything you've ever believed and send you into an existential crisis. Sometimes it's better not to know. Because again, if you're at level 15 on this spiritual journey and you receive level 50 knowledge, well, like in a video game, you're not yet able to wield that power. It's like getting a sword that's too good for you. You still have to practice. So there's no use. It's just a distraction. It's just weighing you down. And that is what a lot of these teachings are like. So we have to understand the idea of paradox. That for one person, something can be true. And for another person, the exact opposite thing can be true for them. So two opposite truths are both true at the same time, from different perspectives. And we have to accept that that's the nature of reality. So you'll hear me say, in one sentence I'll say one thing, and in another sentence I could completely contradict myself. Why is this? Because not everyone is at the same level of consciousness. Therefore, everyone requires different teachings, which is why you have to use your own discernment. You have to trust your own inner guidance. Because if you just kind of take these ideas and claim them without actually knowing, they're gonna ruin your life. Or at least they can. Knowledge is either a burden or it sets you free, depending on where your level of consciousness is at. So if something, a teaching, an idea, if it doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't mean the teaching or the idea is wrong. It means it's wrong for you at this moment on your journey, and maybe later on it will be true. So for example, I could say this all day, but you might be like, I don't think so. And if that's the case, good. Don't just believe it and force it to be true for you if you don't believe it. Be honest. Don't delude yourself all that much. That is not the purpose of this. If you don't feel like you are God, then don't say that you are God. And if you feel like you are God, you probably won't say anything about it. It doesn't mean that you can't be exposed to these kinds of ideas and, seeds can be planted for later on. But you must recognize what is useful for you and what is not. And it doesn't mean that it's wrong or right. It just means it's either wrong or right for you at this moment. Because two opposite truths can be true at the same time from different perspectives. One thing might be true for you on this level of your journey, and then you might have to let that idea go, even if you understand this. And it's an idea that, you get it. Even this idea you will also let go. Because this is just another idea. It's just another philosophical thing. Food for thought. Our mind is always munching. The munching mind. Copyright 2025. The munching mind. The mind is always munching, okay? You don't want to feed the mind, you want to starve it. Because so long as your mind stuff is going all over the place, it's going to distract you. So you have to trust in your own guidance of what is useful and what is not. What ideas serve you at this moment in your life, and which ideas do not. And don't just accept ideas because you heard it or it sounds nice or you would like it to be true. And it doesn't mean you can't expose yourself to this information. It just means you got to be careful so that you don't accidentally destroy yourself. Because the moment the ego slips in through the back door and starts running off this narrative, it's going to create problems. Like, for example, you're going to think you're better than you are. And anytime life doesn't reflect that, inflated self-image, you're going to get angry and frustrated. Well, guess what? God does not get angry and frustrated. Or at the very least, God does not get triggered. So if you're just still living from ego, if you keep getting triggered, what does it mean to get triggered? It means that something happens and you start to feel that tightness in your chest. You start to disagree with what is happening. Or disagree with what someone said. And conflict enters into your heart. And frustration and irritation and resistance to what is being experienced, to what is being presented to you. And if you're experiencing that resistance, that suffering, it is just your ego. The reason these teachings have been hidden is because most people are not ready to hear it, but it's too late. Pandora's box has been opened. We're all sharing this information, and all people on earth have access to it. Now we have to manage the fallout of this information being taught. Because Prometheus has stolen the fire from the gods and given it to humanity. Now what will humanity do with this? Will we burn the world to ashes? Or will we create a nice fire and cook some hot dogs? That is our future. Hot dog land. Just remember, at the end of the day, it's cool to not know. It's cool to be free from the burden of knowledge. It's not cool to have your life be run into the ground by the ego. So for me, in my experience, all of the beliefs, all of the philosophy, all of the ideas, they're irrelevant to me. I'm only sharing them because this is my particular role at this moment to do that. But fundamentally, I'm not attached to any of these ideas. So too, you want to find the truth in silence and in stillness. All of these words are nothing more than signposts leading you to the way. The orb has been pondered. So use them as such. Use them as guiding guides on your journey. Because each philosophy, each teaching is like a map, but the map is not the territory. The map is just guiding you to where you need to go. So the map guides you with information, knowledge, intellectual understanding, philosophy. But wisdom is experienced by walking the path, by walking the journey. Because until you take the first step, the map means nothing. The ideas mean nothing. They can even be a waste of time if you're not ready to walk the path. It's like if I'm sitting at home and I'm looking at my map to my camping spot. Well, I'm not at the camping spot yet, and I'm not even driving yet. I can look at it and understand it, okay, but it doesn't make any sense to continue analyzing it until you go. So whenever you hear some ideas that you don't get, that's okay. There's going to be ideas that highly resonate with you. And that is how you know they're meant for you at that time. There's going to be ideas that don't resonate with you at all. And that's how you know these ideas are not for you at this moment. And there's going to be ideas that are in between. Ideas that you are open to, but do not quite fully understand yet. So it's this journey of just taking what serves you as you go along on this unique point. Because the fact is, everyone's journey is unique. I can't just say, this is the truth for everyone. Because not everyone is ready to hear it. So you have to walk the path, find what truths resonate with you at this specific point on your journey, and throw away everything else. Or keep it on the back burner. Because any idea that does not resonate with you is a distraction. You only want to find the things that make you feel, yes, I need to know this. And focus only on those things, because only those things are feeding your spiritual growth in this moment. Whereas an idea like this, it may just be a distraction for you. You may not understand it. You may not be ready to hear it. And you don't need to be ready to hear it. And you don't need to even know it. It's one of the reasons why psychedelics can be dangerous. Because when you take psychedelics, you will be exposed to information you never were previously aware of. And you will always find yourself at the crossroads. You meet the devil at the crossroads. Why? Because you got two options. Once you see, you can't unsee. So you either have to take that new information and change your life and go a new direction, or you revert to your old ways. This is why Carl Jung said, be very careful of unearned wisdom. Because you may receive information but not be able to do anything about it. And this is why psychedelics can freak people out sometimes, because when you're balls deep in a psychedelic journey, you really feel like, I am God, wow. Everything is united. Everything is love. But then when the psychedelics wear off, you're back to ego land, but now you have this new knowledge. But because you weren't probably ready to receive that knowledge, it's probably not going to help you. But here's the thing. Sometimes we just need a little taste. We just need a little taste of something more. Some indication that there's something greater out there. To spark our curiosity. To spark our seeking. Because you may try to find that state again. So I'm not so much talking about wrong or right. I'm talking about there will be right things for you at this point on your journey and wrong things. But it doesn't mean wrong things are ultimately wrong. It may just be true later down the line. So it's really setting you up so you don't accidentally destroy yourself with spiritual teachings. So you don't allow the ego to rule your life without your conscious awareness. Realize that it's just a signpost. It's just a sign saying, hey, go this way. And you may feel, oh, well, I do want to go this way. Or, no, I don't really want to go that way right now. So you find your own way. Nothing wrong with that. And that's what people don't realize about going back and forth with debates and things like that. Because just because someone says something that doesn't resonate with you doesn't mean it's not true. It just means it's not true for you. And it may just not be true for you at this moment. Doesn't mean it won't be true tomorrow. You don't know. Because your journey changes and evolves and you need new information. Because you're always evolving into a new version of yourself. So it's all about being open to the truth. Not being so prideful and, inflating your ego but just searching for that feeling of rightness. When you hear some truth, it either resonates with you or it doesn't. But it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It means, hey, you just don't like the food. It's like if I'm feeding you food right now, I'm feeding you some food, you either like it or you don't, doesn't mean the food is wrong. It just means it's not for you. Sometimes you don't want Chinese food. So if I'm serving you Chinese food, you'd be like, oh, I got too much Chinese food. I'm good for now. Thanks. And then when you want Chinese food, you come back. And that's what it is for every spiritual teacher and every person on the world. On the world. You look at them, they serve you some food, you either decide whether you like it or not, come back for seconds or not. Just make sure you chew your food and swallow it and digest it before shoving more food back in your mouth. Meaning, don't just be one of those people who consumes information all day. You know you got a face full of food because you didn't swallow it. Now you're just, woozy. That's your new name, Woozy. Woozy. Take it slow. Enjoy your meals. Don't stuff your face. Find the teachers that resonate with you. Find your favorite foods. Eat them slowly. And eventually you will be led to higher and higher states of consciousness. To eventually you realizing that this is the truth, but not being so attached to it where you need to tell the world that it is the truth. But that you can rest silently in that truth and abide in it. And allow your life to be the proof that God exists. That your very expression is rooted in the truth. Not because of your words, but because of your being. Because anyone can tell whether or not you're just saying things, empty words, or if your words actually have weight behind them. Because there's plenty of people in the spiritual community who parrot the same things over and over and over again. It doesn't mean they know it. And even if it's the right thing, even if it is the truth, it doesn't mean they know it. I can speak truth all day, every day. I can just repeat it. Doesn't mean I know it. So you got to be careful of who you listen to. Because human beings can lead you astray if they are not grounded in the truth. Because it's just the blind leading the blind. If someone is living from ego and preaching this message, every single person who hears that message will be led astray. They will be damned. At least a little bit. But the person who's speaking that message will be punished. Why will they be punished? Because the ego is taking a truth and warping it into lies and misleading everyone. It doesn't matter if fundamentally it's true. The energy from which that individual is speaking it is not congruent with that truth. Therefore, the only thing they can do is lead people astray. It doesn't matter if it's true. So be very careful. Not only of what you listen to, but what you preach and what you tell people. That is why the spiritual teacher Papaji said, keep quiet. Don't go around be talking about this stuff. Abide in that silent presence, the silent awareness. Be still and know that I am God. Do not think you are God, but live this truth. Be this truth. And if you can't be this truth just yet, well, continue eating food until you digest all of it and it makes sense. And it's okay if it doesn't make sense now. If it doesn't make sense now, get rid of it. You don't need to make this ultimate conclusion that, no, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. It just doesn't resonate with you at this unique point at your journey. You want to keep yourself humble before God so that you can always be open to the truth. You can know that you are God and still have a personal relationship with God as if you were separate. Because it's much better to do that. Live that way. Because if you're living from ego and you start claiming this, it's just not going to be true for you. But if you just rest in the present moment, find the natural abidance in the self, you can live from this truth, this knowing, and also communicate with God as separate. Because that's the whole fun of it. If you were just thrown into this life and knew you were God from the beginning, well, what fun would that be? The reason that life is a game is because you don't realize your true power. So we forget. So we live in limitation and struggle, eventually to awaken to our true power as the divine creator of the universe, of everything. But be very careful of that ego. And the way to prevent the ego from doing this to us is humility. I like to say, be prideful before the world and be humble before God. Act in the world as though you are God, as though you have infinite power to do anything. And when people come to you questioning your authority, you go like Eric Cartman, respect my authority. But when you pray to God, you pray as though you're just a little baby. So you exist in this paradoxical realm of, on one level, I'm the best, and on the other level, I'm completely helpless. And that is ultimate power. Because you have the power of God, and you also have the humility to prevent the ego from destroying your life. So you're always open to the truth. You're always open to learning and growing, and you haven't had this ego inflation where you think you're God, and you think you know it all, because that will destroy you. That is the risk that humanity is at. We just have to raise our consciousness high enough so that we don't allow stupid things like this to happen. But if humanity's level of consciousness does not rise quick enough or high enough by a certain time, well, then it can destroy us, because it will make us prideful, inflate our ego, and we will lose the need for God. And when we lose that need for God, we will be abandoned. In fact, we will abandon ourselves, permanently cut ourselves from God, and humanity can enter into a dark age like that if we're not careful. And the only way to prevent this from ever happening is for you to embody this truth, not speak about it, not think about it. You must raise your own level of consciousness. You must overcome the ego in your own self, and that's all you can do. That's your only job, is to work through your own karma, not worry about the world. Because when you become more free, you make the world more free. When you become more peaceful, you bring peace to the world. So it's not a game of trying to change the world, trying to fix the world, trying to do anything in the world. It's all about you overcoming the darkness in your own soul so that you can be free and light and embody the truth. You can be like a lighthouse for those still stuck in darkness, and that's how you change the world. That's how you save the world. By overcoming and mastering your own self, rising above your ignorance, which is the ego. And once you embody the truth, it doesn't matter what you say. Everything you will say will be an expression of the truth. And if you live from ego, it also doesn't matter what you say, because most of what you say will lead people astray. Not always, but it's a lot more likely, because this is a very imperfect, limited state of consciousness. And you don't want the ego to be in charge of the world. That is the danger. But if you can continue your journey toward the truth, toward that freedom, which the truth will provide you, then you will save yourself. And when you save yourself, you open up the space for others to do the same. Not that you change anyone or try to tell anyone that this is the truth and lead them to the way, but that your presence is the way, and that you naturally know the right things to say without you need to think about it. You naturally engage in the right actions without you needing to question yourself all that much. And you know you are on the right path if your fruits are that of peace, love, joy, and abundance. Simply grow closer to these things, and you will be okay. But the more you stray from those things, be very careful. Don't come to any premature conclusions about the way the world is or the way that you are until your fruits are effortlessly expressing. If your roots are not rooted in the truth, your fruits will not be that of truth. Does that make sense? Meaning, if your roots as a tree are rooted in ego, you will bear bad fruit, smelly fruits, not abundant. But the deeper your roots go, the more beautiful your fruits. That is peace, joy, love, and abundance. And more, but you get the idea. And you don't need to go around preaching to the world. You just need to let people come to you and pluck a fruit every once in a while, and that will be your food that you give them. And they can either taste it and enjoy it and eat more or not. Nothing wrong. It's all good. Let people come as they do. Let people go as they do. Everyone's on their own unique journey, even you. And if you can be humble before God and allow God to guide you to the truth, you'll be okay. And you won't risk destroying the world. Congratulations. You saved the day. I'll have to send you your own orb to ponder. I am Ray. Visit my cool store. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be.